Hello everybody, hope you're doing marvellously well. We're big, we're bad, we're back, but we're not in Spitfire, our studio. We're in Clay Blair's studio, which is the lovely Boulevard recording. I'm sure there will be a link to a previous video or two that we've done with Clay. Clay now runs the studio, which used to be called the Producer's Workshop, which many of you may know from a lot of really famous records. One of those is The Wall. The Wall was finished up here. They recorded overdubs, mixed, and actually mastered in a different room in this complex. And so, pretty incredible studio. I was talking to Shelly Yakis about this studio, and he made some records here as well, and it's just a wonderful place. So we've been here this week filming a course, and it's actually a Beatles recording course, so stay tuned for that. It's going to be very exciting. But we are big, bad, and back with another Fact Friday. How do you deal with constant self-doubt when recording and mixing? It worries me that I'll never be as good as these people I see on YouTube. What I've always wanted to do with YouTube, and the reason why I started this in the first place, to show what it's like to actually do this for a living. As you know, I make records all the time. I'm here doing something with Clay, but I've been mixing all week, and quite often you'll see me live stream on Facebook. I haven't done it for a little while, should do it. You know, recordings. So this is what me and the people you see interviewed do for a living. And the reason why I wanted to do that was for precisely that reason. And the reason why I interview these great guys and girls that have made all these great records, mastering engineers, mixing engineers, engineers in general, recording engineers and producers, songwriters, the reason why I interview them is because I wanted to pull back a little bit of this veil and show you what it's actually like to do this for a living. I'm blessed that, we're at the moment doing about 5 videos a week, and we're doing it in between making records and mixing records. So why am I waffling on about this? Well, because I realized that this question here is a question I get asked in so many different ways. A lot of the YouTube stuff that you witness out there is done by people that are professional recording YouTubers. You know, I can think of lots of really great people, but their only job is to spend a week making 1 or 2 YouTube videos, which is okay, and that's of value. But unfortunately, what you get is this incredibly well presented, absolutely perfect version of what it's like to be a recording engineer or a mixer, because they spend the week cutting and editing this perfect video. I'm just letting you know it is Thursday at 4:45 p.m. and we are going to a band audition after this for 6. And we're going to be there till 9 o'clock at night, and then we're coming back here in the morning. And some point between 9 p.m. and 11 a.m. in the morning, Eric is going to take this video and edit it. But in the meantime, we're going to do 5 other different things, and we're going to be back here working tomorrow. We do this because we love this, and we want to show what it's really like. I mean, it's fantastic to watch somebody play back a track that they've edited and made perfect over a week, but it's not showing you what it's like to actually do this for a living. And so I get lots of wonderful questions like this because everybody's so worried about, being perfect. Well, the only people that are perfect in music are ones that have time to make it perfect and to present it in a perfect way. Actual professionals, the people you admire, the girls and the guys out there that make recordings that inspire you, aren't perfect. They aren't experts. They're just coming in, doing their best, putting a microphone in front of an amp, even pulling up a sound and messing with it and doing whatever they want to make it sound great. Everybody needs to give themselves a break because music is born out of creativity and passion and wrongness and randomness and things just not working the way you want them to work is what makes it great. Watching a perfectly described or listening to an absolutely perfectly edited piece of music may work for a while, but what gets us is humanity. It is the feel and the love of something that's human and creative. And if you get hear a vocal, even over the most graded track or whatever, and it speaks to you, that is more important than anything else. So give yourself a break. Cut yourself some slack. Do whatever you think is the best that you can do, and put your heart and soul and your passion, your creativity in it, when you get up the next morning and you listen to it, you're probably going to be blown away. It'll be so much better than you thought when you went to sleep. I can't tell you how many incredibly talented people I have met and worked with who tell me that they finished an album, it went in at #1. And I've had this experience. I've had a #1 album that I think I could have done so much a better job of. And I still thought I was a fraud. And I'm not alone. My friends all have the same experiences. They've worked on records that are successful, unsuccessful, everything in between, and they have massive self-doubt. When you sit with Bob Clearmountain, like we did a few weeks ago, and he is amazed that people think he's the best mixer in the world, he's you. He's a real person. He's not this calculated, perfect, haircut, edited, absolutely amazing thing that spent a whole week doing absolutely perfectly, and you're watching it and you're feeling, oh no, this guy or girl's so confident, and oh my God, it's not me. Don't judge yourself like that. As they say, don't judge your insides to other people's outsides. Just remember that passion and creativity drives great music. It's just really important to bring yourself to it and realize that your humanity and your creativity is the most important thing there is. So cut yourself some slack and remember, we're all the same. Do USB microphones have a place in the studio other than podcasting? Heck yeah. You know why? I mean, I'm sure you all know why. Because if that's what you can afford, more importantly, what you have, then use it. Absolutely. Somebody came in the other day. Actually, it was Shelly Yakus with his daughter. They came in and did some recording, and she brought in the Blue USB mic. I have no affiliation with Blue, just mentioning it. They came in, they did some vocal overdubs using the U47 that we have. That's what they wanted to try. Shelly obviously knows that microphone really well. But they wanted to see if they could get similar results and how they would do it with a USB mic. That's a guy that's used every mic in the world. So the reality is like, if that's what you got, then use it. I can tell you many, many records that were made with inexpensive microphones. Clay and I were just joking about this a couple of days ago when it came to the D19, the AKG D19. You've heard me talk about this many times. It was AKG's inexpensive dynamic microphone. But Jeff Emmerich used it on pretty much everything. Probably most famously and weirdly for many people as an overhead. I mean, who would think about using an overhead, a dynamic microphone as an overhead? But the results speak for themselves. There's a lot of mid-range. Maybe the cymbal's a little brittle, you know, from the mid-range. But you know what? It became a sound, and they knew how to make it sound great. So if the modern version of that is using a Blue or another manufacturer's USB microphone, then I say have at it. Go and make great music. So please don't stop yourself from using anything that you have, any piece of equipment, if it gets you making music. Once again, going back to our first question, just because, you know, somebody has a professional setup and it all looks really, really nice and a really well laid out studio, remember that's another thing. It's like when you go to working studios, this is what they look like. This is a working studio. When you're watching your favorite person online with this absolutely perfectly lit studio, remember it's just because they're filming in it. You know, if they were working like the rest of us, it would look a bit more like a mess. So once again, cut yourself some slack. I think that's our message for this video. Cut yourself some slack. Realize that we live in a world of accessibility with incredibly affordable equipment, and really the most important thing, the only thing, is creativity. That's the most important thing. If the Beatles can record incredible songs on a 4-track, then you can too. You can do it with all the gear that you have. There's more gear available to you now than ever before. So don't let anything hold you back, especially if it's just using a USB mic. That's fine. What is the value of knowing how to fix equipment on the fly, i.e. soldering, setting up an instrument, and fixing drum hardware? If you have all those talents, that's amazing. Especially if you're making more rock and roll based records. If you're making records that are specifically, you know, use guitars and basses and drums and, you know, vintage equipment, or even modern, you know, great analog equipment, then having that skill of being able to fix it, you know, make cables, tune drums, restring guitars, do setups, intonations, all of those things are absolutely incredible skills to have. And the reason why an audio engineer was an engineer was a lot of them were trained to be electronic engineers, and then they got into the audio side. And if you think of the great consoles like the Tridents, those were designed by the engineers at the studio. They designed the console. Sunset Sound, those consoles, there's 2 consoles in that room that were designed and built by the engineers that worked in the studio. And that's not unusual. There's tons of those stories. I'm sure plenty of you can add to those stories. And so having that skill set is incredible. Is it going to be useful for EDM music? Probably for cabling and for the guy or the girl that comes in with an acoustic guitar and you have to restring it or set it up. Of course, it's a useful skill to have, but definitely when it comes to like rock and roll or jazz or any acoustic kind of instruments, having those skills of repairing instruments, setting them up is fantastic. And let people know, you know. Look, I've had guitar players come into the studio with a great guitar sound that does not intonate, and I've had to sit there and change their bridge and intonate their guitar. It's probably happened about 50 times. Happens all the time. It's happened with bands with a lot of money have bought a guitar that's not properly set up because they bought it off eBay, they bought it in a junk shop. You know, so that skill is a really useful thing to have. So if you've got it, great, and I think it's going to come in very, very useful. Of all the advancements in headphones, I just want one thing: latency-free wireless monitoring. Right now, a $300 pair of Bose wireless headphones still have a 250 milliseconds worth of latency. How long until that drops to 0? You know, I think you caught me out on this one. I like these kind of questions and I like answering them because one of the things, you know, going back to the first question, I just want to make sure that everybody understands the spirit of this is to say all of our guys and girls that we grew up loving, all of these incredible producers and engineers and mixers, all of the greats have no ego and they don't think that they're super talented. They just think they're working with musicians that are talented and they work their butts off and they work long, long hours. That's everybody I respect. That's how they feel about it. They don't have massive egos about it. They just feel very lucky to have worked on great records with great talents. And the reality is like, that's the message for me. And why am I saying this? Because I haven't done everything, and I've never used wireless headphones for singing. I never tracked with them. I've listened on them, which means I can hear a mix back just to see what it sounds like on my wife's Bose. I bought her the Beats ones that are wireless, like the cream and gold ones. It was a nice Christmas present for her a couple of years ago. You know, they're fun when she's on a plane and she can fly now, and they're noise cancelling. So I have those kind of headphones. I used to use the Sony ones until I sat on them, and they were great. I love them. I have the Blue Wireless. I fly with those, and they're fantastic, but I've never tracked with them. So unfortunately, I didn't know there was that bad of a latency because I'm just playing back music. But you're right. I mean, there will come a point where it will get better, but they'll probably have to use different kinds of technology. I'm happy to have cables. You know, I really am. If I'm in a controlled environment of a studio, even a bedroom studio, I don't think it's that bad to have a single cable, play guitar or sing with. You know, call me old-fashioned, but I don't think it's that inconvenient. But I know what you mean. What I always wanted was a proper switching system. And I think if it was a wireless switching system, that could be amazing, where you could sit there and you could go and choose which source you wanted to listen to without having to walk around and plug in different pairs of headphones. So yes, I do see where you're going, and it will be an advantage. But the time being, for cutting vocals and acoustic guitars, I'm fine with plugging in. But great question, and thanks for enlightening me, because I wasn't aware there was that much of a latency. How do you go about making a mix sound exciting at all volume levels? Monitor at all volume levels. Make sure when you mix fairly quietly-ish. But as you hear me say, and you hear all the great mixers say, it's okay to push it up for a few seconds and see what it sounds like when it's blowing you away. Are you getting that low-end fullness? Is it super exciting? You know, that's what you want to do. You really need to sort of be able to listen on different volumes and different environments and make sure it transfers. Now, one of those things is high mids. High mids, the 3 to 5K, where your ears are most sensitive, is where music starts to get exciting. Think of like cymbals just started pushing. Guitars, like a high line guitar over the top. that's just on the edge, just a little bit, maybe 5% too bright. That's nice. A little too bright is exciting. As I said, cymbals, guitars, vocals, just a little edgy, a little bit more click on the kick, a little bit more action on that snare, a little bit more high mids on that snare, maybe some 7K and above. If you just make it brighter as the song goes, to the end of that song gets fuller, it gets more exciting. That should transfer at all levels. And I would definitely recommend that you play back on your iPhone, your Android, whatever you have, whatever cell phone you have, play back on that and listen to it, play back on your studio speakers, go to the car and make sure it translates. But yes, the obvious answer is listen at all kinds of volumes to make sure it translates, and listen in all kinds of environments. And those things will definitely help you out. Thank you ever so much for these incredible questions this week. I really appreciate it. Have a marvelous time recording and mixing. Don't forget to subscribe. And most importantly, what has been your experiences? And I think, you know, you've heard me say this, those of you who have followed me over the years, is like the reason why I started this channel was to sort of, everybody says this, but to sort of, you know, pull down the veil and show what it's actually like to make music every single day of our lives. This is what we do every day. We record and mix music. All of that beautiful gear you see in my studio, with the exceptions of a couple of pieces, but 99% of it I bought by working my butt off over the last years. I built that up from having a career in music. I wasn't born to a wealthy family. In fact, quite the reverse. My father was an artist and a sculptor, and we didn't make much money. We lived, 5 of us, in a 2-bedroom house that was 564 square feet. It was a bungalow. And you know what? I didn't think about it. I didn't think, oh, we were poor, because my father was an artist. And we went and saw opera and jazz and had this incredible life of arts. So who cared how much money we did or didn't have? I was educated in an incredible school and grew up in a really beautiful environment where I walked through fields to go to school. I mean, who cares about how many shekels you've got when you have that kind of an incredible upbringing in a beautiful part of the world? So that's why I started this, just to show you this is what it's like to work in music, and to show you that you can do this too. You don't need all of the network, you know, of all these famous people, and nobody's going to give you the big break and stuff. You can do this just by working hard, you know, being passionate, being positive, and collaborating with other people. That's really the secret here. So thank you for these incredible messages. Thank you for these wonderful comments, and leave more of them below. And let us know your experience. I'd love to know why you do this, what motivated you, and that's it. Have a marvelous time recording and mixing, and I'll see you all again very, very soon. Adios.